welcome back to another true crime segment on Exploring with Ash and Jake. Today we're going to be talking about the Oxford school shooter. Without further ado, let's get straight into the story. Ackland County Mitch lawyers on Thursday revisited the dark, violent evidence in a special hearing to decide whether the school shooter, Ethan Crumbley, 17, will be sentenced to life in prison without parole for carrying out the 2021 Oxford High School shooting. In court Thursday morning, the first witness shared writings from Crumbley's personal journal in which he laid out his desires to kill his fellow students. Prosecutors also showed video footage from the shooting which they had never before publicly seen. Students witnessed the massacre already also expected to testify. The prosecution will try to convince the judge that the shooter deserves life in prison without the possibility of parole for his crimes. The victims and families are expected to be in the courtroom. The video and students' testimony are a part of Crumbley's so-called Miller hearing, a mandatory proceeding during which the judge will decide whether life without parole sentence is appropriate for the teenager who murdered 4 students and injured 6 students and teachers in the shooting at Oxford High School in Oxford Township, Michigan. The hearing is expected to last 2 to 3 days. Lieutenant Timothy Willis, the first witness to speak at the hearing, said a 22-page journal was found in the bathroom stall, apparently left behind by Crumbley before he emerged in the hallway at Oxford High School and began shooting. "I want America to hear what I did," Crumbley wrote. "I will cause the largest school shooting in the state. I wish to hear the screams of the children as I shoot them," Willis said. Crumbley searched online for information about police emergency response times, prison sentences for teenagers, and whether Michigan has a death penalty. In her opening remarks, Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald said Crumbley was an offender like no other, meticulously planning the attack and willing to peacefully surrender and to spend the rest of his life behind bars. I mean, this is like premeditated murder right here, like to the max, like calculated in every way possible. This just breaks my heart. Crumbley's lawyers plan to offer a testimony from an expert in child brain development, i.e. a psychiatrist, and another who has spent time with teen and performed psychological tests. Crumbley is not one of those rare individuals who is irreparably corrupt and can't be rehabilitated, attorney Paulette Michael Lofton said in her opening statement. Crumbley was 15 when he carried out his crimes using a gun, and his parents had bought him it as an early Christmas present because of his age. He is entitled to a hearing during which both sides will argue why he should or should not get life without parole. So the question I ask y'all, I'm going to stop and just interject, is do you think he should get life without parole? Do you think that he should go into a juvenile hall facility and be rehabilitated back into society? Do you think people like this with the mindset to kill at such a young age, such as 15, can be rehabilitated back into society? I mean, all these families, mothers and fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers, uncles, aunts are without their children, without their nieces and nephews because of this person. I mean, in one article in his journal, it even says that because his parents were out of town and his mental health, i.e. depression, was so bad, he drowned a whole family of baby birds. I mean, what sick fuck does that? What sick person does this? I mean, it's more than just mental illness, and it's more than just sickness. And no, do I personally think that this person should be rehabilitated back into society? Absolutely not. As somebody who has 3 children of my own, this is just sick to the max. And this person, yeah, do they belong getting the death sentence? No. But do they belong behind bars without the possibility of parole? Absolutely. I mean, you can't just blame mental illness and mental disorders and psychological disorders on you just taking your rage out on the world and killing your fellow classmates. I mean, it's pre-calculated every step in a journal. This is unacceptable. The prosecution has argued life without parole is a fitting punishment for Crumbly, who pleaded guilty to everything he was charged with, admitting he intended to cause panic and fear, and that he detailed his plan in the journal the day before the shooting, writing, "I will cause the biggest school shooting in Michigan's history. I have fully mentally lost it," he also wrote. "The first victim has to be a pretty girl." But Crumbly's defense team believes he deserves an opportunity at, quote, freedom one day, given his age, health challenges, and difficult home life. I'm just going to stop and interject in the fact that they want to give him freedom. I don't know, because it doesn't really disclose his home life, but what I do know is that I have very mixed feelings about this situation. I mean, I get that he's an underage kid. I get the mental health and psychological disorders, but do I think integrating him back into the world at this time is a good idea? No, I don't. In fact, I have a hard time believing people that could just go and unconsciously, with no thought process in their mind, just go on a killing spree and kill other people's kids. Do I think that they're going to change? No, I do not. I mean, I believe that there's a reason these people do these things that they do, whether it be their mental health issues or whatever is going on. That is still not a crutch and should not be used as a crutch to enable them and excuse their behavior for what they did. They need to be held accountable. Our justice system, criminal justice system for underage kids is so ridiculous. Sometimes they end up getting the help they need, and sometimes they end up getting the short end of the stick. And I have very mixed feelings about this as, like I said, somebody who has my own kids. This is just a very disturbing case, even just reading this. The Miller hearing will give the court as well as the public a good inside look into the difficult home life of Mr. Crumbly and what challenges he was facing. Paulette Michelle Lofton, Crumbly's attorney, previously told the Free Press, "I believe the hearing will show that Mr. Crumbly is worthy of an out date and that there is a potential for rehabilitation inside the Michigan Department of Corrections." Now, I just want to stop again and interject that, these are some very serious issues, and the fact that his family did nothing when he openly discussed his mental health as an underage kid, you think the first thing your parents are going to do is, oh my God, my kid's saying he's having some mental health issues. Let's take him to a doctor. Let's see what's going on. Let's have somebody talk to him, maybe a therapist, maybe get him in some creative art classes, things like that, and just kind of start taking the steps to, a better life, better health, physical and mental health and recovery. But none of that occurred. His parents just blatantly didn't give a shit. And this makes me very, very upset and concerned for the kids that are out there going to school. My kid's getting ready to start preschool, and these kinds of things are very alarming as a parent and just as an individual advocating for people's rights. It's just shocking the limited amount of funding that there is for mental health and opportunities to help these people before their sickness gets out of hand. So again, I'm torn with this whole case. Teacher at the school shares her testimony on getting shot. Molly Darnell, a former teacher at Oxford High School who was shot in the arm on November 30th, testified at Crumbly's hearing on Thursday. Darnell, who was 47 at the time of the shooting, is now a mentor at Oxford Virtual Academy after leaving her post at the high school. "I wanted to go back. I loved the work that I was doing, and I wanted to kind of prove that I could go back, but it was kind of hard to be there," Darnell said. "It was like I couldn't access things I knew when I was in that space." During her testimony, Darnell recalled locking eyes with Crumbly before noticing a gun raising towards her. Darnell said she jumped to the side and heard multiple loud pops. "I felt my left shoulder move back, and I felt like someone had burned me with hot water," Darnell said. Crumbly's attorney questioned Darnell about Crumbly's personal life and family life, though she said the shooting was the first time that they had ever actually met. "Do you know how hard it is to heal from something like this? I avoid everything I can to heal, Darnell responded after multiple questions on Crumbly. Darnell recalled messaging her family to let them know she was alive and to say, "I love you." As she crouched in her office after being shot, Darnell told the court she regretted not messaging her older daughter who lived out of state. "I thought by not saying anything I can keep her safe for a little bit longer," Darnell said, but she found out anyway. The U.S. Supreme Court and Michigan Supreme Court have held that the mandatory sentences of life without parole for juveniles are unconstitutional and require the Miller hearing, which is named after the 2012 Miller versus Alabama case before the U.S. Supreme Court. It involved Evan Miller, a 14-year-old from Alabama who was sentenced to life without parole for beating a man to death with a baseball bat during a robbery. The High Court held the sentence was unconstitutional and amounted to cruel and unusual punishment. The ruling has since required courts to hold Miller hearings for juveniles facing a sentence of life without parole. In the Crumbly case, Oakland County Circuit Judge Kwame Rowe will consider several factors in reaching the decision, including but not limited to Crumbly's background and mental health, emotional development, his home life, family environment, and character, his record while incarcerated. The circumstances of the crime include the extent to which Crumbly was involved and how his family or peer pressure may have played a part. The prosecution has argued that Crumbly's parents are also to blame for the tragedy, alleging the couple ignored their son's mental health issues instead of getting him the medical help, and they bought him a gun, thus aiding his behavior. The parents, James and Jennifer Crumbly, are facing involuntary manslaughter charges and denying wrongdoing. They maintain their son is the only one responsible for the deaths and that they have no way of knowing he would carry out a school shooting. Their case is pending before the Michigan Supreme State Court. I am just going to stop for a minute here, and I am just going to call absolute fucking bullshit on this. You say that you didn't know by you buying your son a gun that he was going to, draw out a school shooting. Your son had previously communicated to you on not one, but several instances that he had mental health issues, and you were out of town when he drowned a family of baby birds, and he told you he needed help. He had detailed calculations down to the day, date, and time, and the first victim must be a beautiful girl that he's going to kill. I mean, all these things leading up to it, and he continuously told you he needed help, yet you bought him a gun when he told you he had mental health issues instead of going out and getting him help. You are not a part of the solution. You are a part of the problem. You are not even good parents. This is bad parenting, especially when he has told you that he has mental health issues. I'm sorry, there is just no way of worming your way around that. And yes, the parents are just as responsible for the deaths and murders of these innocent children going to school. They have their whole lives ahead of them, and now they have nothing. They don't have shit because of this kid. Yeah, I'm very, very angry reading this. Try not to cry. The story I'm not even a part of this case, and this is just very, very hard right now. I don't even know what to say. I'm just so angry right now. With everything going on in news in the world right now, I just wanted to include these hotline phone numbers. If you know anyone that needs help, these phone numbers do save lives, and there are people 24 hours on standby waiting to take your call if you need some help, or if you're thinking about hurting yourself, or you know someone who's thinking about hurting themselves or having